Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you so much.
Now it appeared.
Now the button is
interpretation. Button.
I will choose
now
Spanish.
The button is at the bottom. You can find it there. Some people were concerned that it wasn't appearing yet.
Yeah.
And you can choose your language. And thank you, Celeste and Alba and V, who are supporting this session. I want to give another round of applause to the people that are working so hard to make this happen. And in the tech room, there's like a ton of people that you can't see that are working so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, girls. Thank you, everybody.
Me too. I like also to express my gratitude to the interpreters to this session and to the organizers to this event that are working a lot. And so I'm very grateful.
I just wanted to comment that I'm so in awe of this advance of including other languages. And it felt like from the last festival to this one, this huge advance. And it felt so professional. It sounded like those instructions when you're boarding the plane, like, please, like the exits are here and there. And this, I just missed the signals.
Yeah. So welcome everyone to our session, Transforming Domination Systems. And I'm Sandra, for those who doesn't know me, and this is Yuri. We work together for around 10 years with Nonviolent Communication now, and we are also married for 21 years. So NVC is very important in our personal lives as well as in our professional lives, if you can separate it. In our case, I guess everything is kind of mixed up together. So yeah, and to start, I'd like to invite you to take a few breaths with me and to center ourselves a little bit. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, I invite you to do so. If you don't do it, please. Only do whatever you feel comfortable doing, please. So I invite you to take a few breaths and connect to yourself, to your body, to your intention of participating in this event and participating in this meeting, especially to your needs, and connect to yourself. How are you feeling right now? How are you in this moment? And welcome. Also, I want to say that I'm from Brazil. We are speaking from Brazil. Slow down a little bit.
People are coming back from breathing together a little bit. Yeah.
Come back to our room, take a look in the room, the people that are here with us. We can see a few people on video. There are many people with the video off. For now, it's okay. I would like to invite you to turn on the video when you're going to do enter the breakout rooms. But now it's not necessary so much if you don't want to. And yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say welcome as well, and to start off connecting with the theme of this session, which we've called Transforming Domination Systems. And I want to invite to an opening activity, which for me, it connects deeply to this idea of transforming domination systems, which is a challenge that often exists with some domination, maybe many domination systems, that they are not exactly visible, or they're not exactly in the field of awareness. And so part of this work for me is to make domination systems visible, to make them enter my field of awareness so they can inform me and how I want to be in the world, and what am I considering and how am I choosing. And I want to invite to do this activity, which is something we've learned with activists, friend of ours, that we appreciate very much their work. And it felt like a good way to bring here. There are so many ways of doing this, but this practice is so simple, and it's a way of doing this exact thing I'm mentioning. So it's an acknowledgement of the territories that we are in, that where our feet are touching the ground. And in this situation, it's so wonderful that people from so many different places are here. And the idea is to acknowledge that in many cases, maybe not all, but in so many cases, the territories that we are in, the sovereignty of that territory was not giving freely and willingly by their ancestral peoples. And so I want to acknowledge here that Sandra and I are in São Paulo, Brazil, and that in the exact spot that we are used to be a Tupi-Guarani nation territory. And in doing this, I am doing this with the intention of honoring their elders, past, present, and future. And what I want to invite you to do, if you are aware and know in your territories, to put in in the chat, so we can all see how this exists in many different parts of the world. What are the names of the ancestral peoples and First Nations and indigenous peoples that used to live, or sometimes still live, in the territories where you're at, but they have had to give up their sovereignty unwillingly many times, often.
Palestinians, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Menominee, I'm not sure I will be able to read everything.
Ojibwe
and Potawatomi peoples. Palestinians, Entre Rios, Argentina, Charrúas e Guaranis, Etruski, Ojibwa, Odawa Nation, Ireland, Celtic tribes, Syrian, Koya, Canadian settler on land that was the precious land of Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, Treaty, Yagita, Iran, Lapps in Sweden, Denaina. I acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Hawaiians, indigenous Malay, Nepal, jungle tribes, Taru indigenous group, Apalachee. Yeah.
And I just want to allow people to continue to write in, and you can follow in the chat, and to give a little bit of space and just breathe and notice what it's like to just witness this short and subtle moment together, and just this expansion of bringing in more of what is definitely part of our reality, but it's not always acknowledged, it's not always present, not always informing. I know that it's not always informing my awareness, just because of the normality that is around me and everything that I can see. And so there's an intentionality that is needed for me to move out of my comfort zone and to look and to see and to feel what it's like. Oh, and someone is requesting to know what's the question. Maybe you didn't hear before. We were inviting to name what are the ancestral people or original nations or First Nations or indigenous nations that used to live in the territory where you are and that had to give their sovereignty up, and very often not willingly.
Yeah.
So they were forced out of their land.
Thank you. There are so many people from different parts of the globe. I'm so happy to see that we are here together right now in this moment.
Thank you.
Connecting. Thank you very much. And so.
Oh, and there's more larger acknowledgements.
Yeah, that from Joe, I would like to acknowledge from the UK how very much people from this land have been part of taking away the sovereignty of many of people mentioned here. Yeah, thank you for bringing that.
Thank
Joe.
you.
Same for Swiss, still hanging on in this little piece of land. Less than 1 million Estonians. 1 million, I guess. Yeah.
I want to.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to start by saying that this theme of this session is very close to our hearts and to our work. And I remember that there's a specific way that I heard Marshall Rosenberg put a sentence that I actually, since I started studying NVC and then practicing and integrating, and over the years, I had to hear that several times, and it kind of gets lost in a larger context. But this little sentence, I heard it several times, and there was a specific moment where it clicked, where Marshall used to say that our needs come from our thoughts. And that kind of kept me in a questioning, investigative questioning of that. What does it mean, our needs come from our thoughts? Or I was kind of trying to figure out and understand how NVC worked in me and how I felt it in my body, in my experience, and every day. I could very quickly understand how my feelings come from my needs. I would feel pleasant feelings where my needs were met and unpleasant feelings where they weren't. And that kind of clicked very quickly. But it took me a little while to sit with our needs come from our thoughts. And in a way, it has to do a little bit with my personal story as well. And it has to do with why I ended up in NVC. And it's so I was born and raised in Israel, and I went to Brazil when I was about 14 to 15. And there was a moment in my life that I had to confront a lot of my socialization and identity and the narrative about who I am and what's the world like, mainly around the region where I grew up. I decided to dive into an academic investigation, which suddenly presented me with a lot of information that wasn't part of my socialization. It wasn't part of my education. And it brought a lot of information that challenged very strongly the explanations and the stories that I had of growing up in Israel. My first memory as a child was being in a bunker, in an anti-bombing bomb shelter, I think it's called, and how over my life the narratives that tied that experience and other experience kind of brought me a very simple story, that there's someone that wants to attack and kill us, and that we need to defend ourselves, and that there's no way of significant dialogue of happening. And as I dove into investigation and I went to work with human rights organizations in the field, a lot of that narrative got challenged. And I started understanding what was the pain of Palestinians in that story. how they got expelled from their lands in order for the state where I was born to be created, and how that was never really fully addressed. And it shifted me, it changed me in deep, deep ways. I went into this deep identity crisis that was actually got me physically sick for a long time. And slowly, as I emerged from that and started transforming my understanding, I also started connecting with this notion of, wow, those stories that I grew up with shaped my paradigm, shaped my understanding of the world in a way that I didn't even revisit a lot of it. I didn't even see it anymore. There was a clear kind of right and wrong and good and bad and what's the story. And I think the certainty of a story was kind of the most dangerous thing for me there. And I just didn't question it. And I didn't know that I could question it. That's actually maybe even more challenging. I didn't even know that it was possible to question it. And so that was what came back to me when I think about that sentence from Marshall. That came back to me, how our needs come from our thoughts. And so I started to understand that thoughts, not as the one thought, like a sentence thought that crosses my mind, but what is the understanding that I hold, the narrative, the story, the understanding that I hold of the world and myself in it and the people around me. And within that context, I understand that certain needs are met and certain needs are unmet. And that's kind of creates that background that's often, for me at least, I noticed how I wasn't fully aware of it. And so it's within that kind of context. And I want to pass on to Sandra to speak. But I just wanted to make that connection that this is the perspective that we would like to bring for our practice today and our exercises that connect a lot to maybe this making visible of domination systems has to do also with making visible those very invisible and normalized paradigms that often we don't even know that we can question. So that's my personal experience, and I want to invite you to open up to taking that into consideration as we move forward in your own contexts, in your own lives, in your own experience, and see what makes sense and what doesn't. And yes, just please take for yourself what makes sense to you, what clicks.
Okay, so I want to say a few things about how this connects with me and this topic specifically. I was born in a multicultural family here in Brazil, and I grew up in a very within a very critical environment, like with critical thinking during my childhood and growing up, questioning everything around. Not only myself, but my parents also were like that and would invite me to do that as well. So the questioning is something that is very much alive for me my whole life. And when I got to know NVC, when I learned NVC and I started investigating it and trying it in my own life, this was made so much sense. And I was lucky, I guess, to since the beginning get to know NVC within this broader view, not only as something to transform personal relationships or a way of speaking, but something that intends to transform our society in a bigger way, like to bring to the world more equality, more where everyone's needs matter, and how can we do to meet what can we do in the world to meet more and more needs, to meet everyone's needs. So this is why this is very much connected to the Marshall's quote that actually we put in our workshop.
In the presentation of the workshop, yeah.
Yes, English is not my first language, so yeah, so that's it. So I'm not very fluent. So I'm putting it here in English and Spanish in the chat. This quote that says, if I use nonviolent communication to liberate people, to be less depressed, to get along better with their family, but not teach them at the same time to use their energy to rapidly transform systems in the world, then I am part of the problem. I am essentially calming people down, making them happier to live in the systems as they are. So I'm using NVC as a narcotic. So for me, this is very important, how to transform at the same time the systems that are outside in the structures, in the way society organizes itself, and at the same time, how it lives within myself in the way I am thinking, in the way I am thinking and relating to myself, in the way I am connecting to other people around me, and in the way I interact in the world, in the society. So all of that is part of NVC in my perspective. And this is, so we wanted to bring this here and think together and investigate together, actually, all of these three levels of so the intrapersonal level, the interpersonal, and the systemic or the structural, how our society organizes itself. Is it clear?
Yeah. For me, it is.
Okay. So there's also some instructions here from the tech support. If you want to say something, ask something.
We will have certain moments also that we will open to questions, but
okay. You want to say something else?
Yeah, so part of this idea that Sandra brought and this quote from Marshall has to do with what I was mentioning before, and this process. How can NVC awareness help me look into these domination systems that I become aware of, and help me notice how they are also being reproduced inside me, how I got influenced by my environment in very subtle ways that I really don't, they're often not that, they're just subtle. They're not screaming forms of domination, but they're just there. And it wasn't a choice at any point. This is, again, something that I remember from my own process of getting so angry that I was somehow programmed by my environment to see the world in a way that I really couldn't exercise choice. There wasn't, I didn't really meet my need for respect and consideration and autonomy wasn't met in that experience of just believing my environment, believing the stories around me, the school books, the public celebrations, the adults that didn't know any better. They also thought this, they saw the world in that way. They thought that was the reality. And I just didn't have a choice in that. And there's some level of self-compassion that I want to always remind myself of, because it's very easy for me to slide into a place of feeling guilty or taking blame for thinking in a blame structure about myself, that I was participating in something that wasn't creating the world that I would like to create. and how then with NVC I can reconnect and create that space of self-empathy for not having had a choice, but now becoming aware and starting to have a choice, starting to, from my awareness, be able to have that choice. And also really creating room for that, creating room. Sometimes I know that in my process, it was really painful to discover the domination systems that I identified that I was part of. And so I just wanted to kind of exclude them from myself. At some point, I remember thinking, oh, I'm going to convert to another religion. But then I understood it's not about the religion. But it felt like in a certain moment in this desperation, I want to take out of myself something and just take it out of me because I just don't want that. And what made me shift was just gaining more and more clarity, just staying with it, creating room for it, creating room and staying with it. Yeah, so I've noticed after a while and walking more with NVC that experience for me that was kind of basic, a little bit of my roots and my reason for arriving at NVC, because I just, in human rights work, I didn't see the kind of conversation being held in a way that I could really feel it was transformative. I do believe that human rights work is fundamental, but I couldn't see the quality of connection and transformation being part of that awareness. I really appreciated NVC for that, for creating conditions for conversation. But then I started noticing that there were so many other domination systems that I became aware of that I was also, without a choice, participating in. And so becoming aware of my own whiteness and becoming aware of my masculinity within a patriarchal system, all of that kind of were other layers of basically over and over discovering the same thing again and again and having to deal with those challenges washing over me and trying to stay with it and just really allow that transformation to happen and to try to be in the world in a different way, in a way that I would be contributing to the world that I want to be in, where all needs matter, where equity and equality matter.
Yeah, so let's maybe dive into something more practical.
Yeah.
There's another quote that I'd like to put here as well. It is from a Brazilian thinker, maybe you know him, an educator, Paulo Freire. And he says, when education is not liberating, the dream of the oppressed is to become the oppressor. And for me, this quote is very connected to NVC and to its goal, that is exactly to transform systems of domination systems and power over or power under structures in power with structures and power with relationships. So we would like to let's ask the questions and put it here. So there are a few people writing a few things.
Do you want
there.
to check a little bit the chat?
Tanya, this then in the great humanistic and historical task of the oppressed to liberate themselves and their oppressors as well. The oppressors who oppress, exploit, and rape by virtue of their power cannot find in this power the strength to liberate either the oppressed or themselves. Only power that springs from the weakness of the oppressed will be sufficiently strong to free both. Paulo Freire. I didn't know this quote, but yeah, very interesting. That like the oppressed and the oppressor are both in the same structure, are both maybe victims of the same power structure, and they are placed in different roles, and they it's difficult to move and to change. If you grew up or you grew up in that role, it's difficult to get rid of it or transform it, and it's not impossible. So that's what I guess we are trying to do, and also what Paulo Freire works was about.
And Lisa is here. I see. Hi, Lisa.
She's saying, I feel so sad about being an Israeli living in Israel and feel so grateful to be able to touch these feelings in this session. It's been crippling for me over the years. Yeah. And this is, yeah. You want to say something about that?
No, that's just lovely to hear that resonance here and to know Lisa is here. Hi.
And Emmanuel is saying as well that for me, needs are not neutral. I regularly see that women make choices to fulfill their needs to take care of others, while men fulfill their needs for freedom or accomplishment. I believe it is more to do with sexist education than to their own needs. What do you think about that? Yeah, exactly. So our needs are not personal only, individual, but we believe our needs are being met or not within a context, within a culture, within how a story we grew up, a paradigm. So it's all connected to that. So I would like to invite us to think together. What are the structures we are in, or you can see in the society, that reproduces domination systems? So I will send it here, a link for Google Docs. I think it will be easier we do that in a Google Doc than in the chat, so we can organize it better. You want to say something about that?
About the Google Docs? Yeah, so this first, we're going to take a few steps in this exercise, and so this first step is more collective, and we're going to have this shared document for everybody to co-edit. And the idea is to first step is to name where do you see in your experience these domination systems being reproduced in different aspects of the societies that you are part of, in terms of institutions and in terms of culture, in terms of, just name. You don't need to explain, just put kind of like the 1 or 2 word naming of it in this shared document that Sandra put the link in the chat. And it could be also, we could think of it as institutional, cultural, structural. Cultural has to do also with the stories, the narrative. Some of the things that came up here, for example, talking about how masculinity is understood. What is the narrative behind it in kind of an overarching way? Maybe there are different narratives here and there, but there's oftentimes, when we look at how much patriarchy is established, there's a lot of shoulds and have tos, you know, and we're going to go into that afterwards. But for example, so what are these bits of our culture and our institutions and that we can name? So we have their schools and family and church. People are putting
health system, education.
Organizations, government, institutions that regulates. Okay, this is
human affairs. That's what I put.
This is Sandra. Yeah, it's Sandra.
Work ethics, Switzerland. I don't know what that is. Affordable childcare.
Work ethics. Yeah.
Education perpetuates patriarchy and dominance.
Perfect. Yeah.
Family, church, health systems. Let's see in Spanish. Wonderful. What people are writing down.
So there are 2 documents, one in Spanish and one in English. And so the document in Spanish.
There's nothing written in the document in Spanish yet. If you
would like to participate in Spanish, if you feel more comfortable to write in Spanish, there's a second document in Spanish that both links are up. Are both links there in the chat? Yes. So both links are in the chat.
Yeah.
So you can also write in Spanish if you'd like.
And we can address that later, right? So there are more things being written. Leading positions, perhaps CNVC too. Yeah, CNVC as an institution, it might be reproducing some kind of domination systems, not willingly, but it may be. Democracy, 50% is not happy. Access to safe voting systems, access to voting, parenting, citizenship, my workplace, global tech company, yeah, media, social media groups, local community cultures, yeah, gender expectations and behavior, yes. So we can see all of those military, cults, sports, church, religions.
Wow, so much.
Yeah, medical health, education, parenting, big business, government, military, yeah, property, money, yeah, money as the economical system, the financial system structure that in we live in.
And the idea of money itself and the stories behind it.
Property.
Voting systems, access.
Citizenship, yeah, states, the division in states, countries, right?
The modern international system of states.
In Italy, maybe in Western countries, the need to be successful, famous, beautiful, with a beauty comfort to certain rules, fit, slim, etc. Yeah, so this is the mindset that comes together with and all of it, right?
We're going to explore that as well, because the next step we're going to take is going to be to look a little bit in more detail within those systems that you've named. If you can name the roles, so the invitation for the next step would be to name the roles that people often occupy. So they're often labels of positions, but I just want to make that clear. We're wanting to look at them as roles that people occupy, not necessarily the people.
So we were looking to the structural level, this more institutional. Now, I will put it down there in the doc. The second level, the interpersonal level. So in what social roles, titles, positions, functions are systems of domination perpetuated? So functions. So a few things you put up there. For example, parenthood.
In family, for example, you will have the roles mother, father, children, let's say grandfather, grandmother, for example. Just a very simple. In money or banks, for example, you would have the roles of bankers and, I don't know, bank tellers and I don't know how you call the people who hold their money in the bank, but they're also participating in that. There are also roles in that system.
Student, teacher, yeah.
Student, teacher, yeah, perfect.
Los funcionarios políticos, politicians in Spanish as well. The laws. They have written also here in Spanish. The work interviews, laws, banks, yeah. States, funcionarios políticos. So
there are the government employees.
Government.
Yeah.
Police, the military. President, father, colleagues, minister, leader, priest, husband, wife, parents, kids, doctor, nurse, patient, CEO, teacher, kindergarten teacher, all of us. That's the way that we practice inclusion and acceptance, maybe. All of us. Yeah, but all of us, we are trying to see what are the
specific roles,
roles and titles and functions in society that are more than just us. It's not my personality. It's something that I'm kind of wearing in society, the role that I'm performing. And somehow the role impedes me to see the person behind the role, the humanity, and people to see me. If they are seeing my title, they're not seeing me, the person. Many times. Opponent in sports game, daughter, secretary, mother, white, black, brown, boss, employee, student, teacher, doctor, patient, therapist, servant, manager, receptionist in a hospital that has the power to say who I let in. Yeah, a client, the providers I choose, judge, examiner, policeman, senior, juniors at university, mayor, bankers, dictator, owner, professor, all the labels. Yeah, all the labels. Perfect. Let's see.
And I just want to frame a little bit, just to keep us in a kind of a clarity while we're doing what are we doing, is a movement that we're inviting all of us to exercise together, of naming more of the things that we refer to as very abstract, as different systems, and how domination systems are reproduced through them. So what we want to do is, by naming and then naming the more specific roles, and then we're going to go one level deeper, we're trying to bring just a mapping, a little bit of mapping. This is not a total mapping, but it's kind of raising a little bit more the awareness. Just I'm noticing in myself, just looking at the list that came up from the collective intelligence here and the collective perception, how I wouldn't be able by myself to just sit and do this, make this list. So I'm just noticing how it's impacting me, like, wow, so much. There's so much detail, and it's all around me, and it's in so many places. And just seeing it, just making it visible by naming it, is our first step right now.
And now I would like to invite us. I'm writing down a little bit down there in the Google. It's a little bit difficult because I'm working in two different documents. But in the intrapersonal level, I put Spanish in the English one. Sorry about that. So in the intrapersonal level,
this is the one.
How do I relate? How do I think and feel about myself? What do I tell myself? What are the thoughts, the sentences, the paradigms, the narratives, the language, the models, the beliefs? What is the discourse that perpetuates domination systems? So I invite you to write down examples of phrases or models or ways of thinking.
And those could be things that are in myself. Are you inviting?
So we can go let's go a little slower.
A little slower, okay. Yeah. Yes, this is for translation. So we'll take a breath. Thank you for letting us know. Thank you. So I'm sorry. It's slower.
So people are writing here examples of thoughts and phrases and narratives. I need to work hard. You do not know enough, or I don't know enough. You are not good enough. Sometimes it's also, I am not good enough.
Yeah, these could be things that I'm internalizing from others who tell me that, but also things I'm telling myself.
And people tell each other. Everyone in this myth of his own luck. German. I don't know this. So it's a proverb. German proverb. Okay.
Smith é artesão.
Smith is craftsman.
Yeah, artisan Smith.
Smith of his own luck. Thinking I have no choice. Fear of being rejected. I don't deserve to be happy. I don't know another way. I cannot change.
Istvan is asking, would you put environmental and social structure, country, government policy, environmental philosophy in level 1? Yes. Yes, it's the cultural level that and the narrative level that generates the institutional and structural level. So they're all right there. Yeah, thank you.
Other ways of thinking. I'm helpless, invisible, powerless. Boys don't cry. Girls have to behave. What else? When you want, you can. Behave to belong. Don't make waves. I am not legitimate. Adults know better. Good women aren't angry. I have to be successful. What a pretty young lady. Yeah, all this also elogios.
Compliments.
Compliments, as well as that are perpetuating stereotypes or domination systems. So let's check the Spanish one.
I'm here down there. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for letting us.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, we are going Okay, thank you.
Quando lê coisa, precisa dar o tempo da tradução. Lê, dá tempo da tradução.
Okay. So, no soy...
We need to wait a little before they switch. So we're just gonna wait a second for the switch. Vamos a esperar un poco para el cambio.
Já cambiou. I also can share. I'm not sure everyone is being able to see. Would you like me to share the? I don't. Maybe not, no, because we're reading it, right?
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Interpersonal. Any one way of thinking in stuck dominating. 2 ways are dilemmas. And 3 more ways is choice.
One way of thinking is stuck.
Okay.
2 ways are dilemmas, and 3 or more ways is choice.
Okay.
I love that. Thank you, Sid. Yeah. So, yeah, I want to connect this a little bit to also thinking what we're doing is really thinking about things that Marshall gifted us while thinking of nonviolent communication, but also expanding on it. Because some of the conversations that are happening today more broadly weren't happening back then that much. So even a lot of language has as it is natural of language to widen and increase vocabulary. As time goes by, all languages have continuously changed and become more capable of naming more. And the idea of naming has to do a lot with what we're doing here, of bringing to an aware level, an awareness level, things that before might have always been there, but might have not gotten that awareness and that contour of having a name and being defined, being able to refer to them. So in social change, a lot of new language emerges, and that becomes tremendously important, whether it is, for example, I don't know how many years, but I know that in the work that we've been doing in relation to gender diversity, for example, I know that I, as a cis hetero male, have learned a lot about being able to call myself like this and be able to understand more vocabulary of different gender terms that where people do not identify with what was the
binary
cis heteronormative language. So moving from just a normality, the idea of normalization also has to do for me with invisibilization, of making things invisible. The idea of normality, of man, woman as the only references into a very diverse amount of references and experiences of gender and sexual orientation, is in language, has been a relatively recent move in the last few decades. I'd say it's been increasing and accelerating, and even more recently. Speaking more about, for example, notions of privilege and power relations has been more present more recently. So all of that naming, bringing the name, and for me also interacts with this notion of expanding of how much are we aware of the elements and making that are part of our world and making them visible so they can be also all of them part of the collective awareness, and how we are co-creating our world. How are we choosing to co-create our world, and whether the experience of people is of their needs being met or not, and how we can hear that more, how people can be heard more.
So there's a question from Tanya here, that this, how do you define domination systems? And so I want to address that, and also to put here a quote and a link to a text, to a Marshall Rosenberg's text that you can access later. But he's talking about the domination systems as the governments, organizations, institutions
let it the rhythm for translation
that regulate human affairs, but also not only the institutions, but the systems within ourselves, how we perpetuate within ourselves this way of thinking. So he quotes, is it okay? So I think I'm going,
yes.
Yeah, he quotes Walter Wink in two books, The Powers That Be and Engaging the Powers. And in these books, the Walter Wink is talking about domination systems as being ones. What?
There's a signal from V. I'm not sure if she's asking us to pause.
I'm going to go slower. I think it's okay. Celeste said it's like that.
Okay.
Yeah. That domination systems being ones in which a few people control many on their own advantage. In domination systems, you have to train people to think in ways that support the system, so they fit the system. And so all this way of, and he also says, he talks about from around 5,000 to 8,000 years ago, how our society, how human beings started to organize in this way of thinking, and also in this way in society, how there are some people that are more important than others, some groups of people that have that are more worthy than others, that are more important than others, that deserve more than others. And then the whole language is structured in a way, the language we use to maintain these systems in place, and also the way we think maintain these structures in place.
And I would say that those things are interconnected. They're not
independent
not of each other.
So the structures outside the government, the way the church, the way our society organizes is directly connected with the way we think as a collective. So everything we are writing down is part of this domination systems, like it's part of maintaining domination systems in place, where some people deserve more, are more important, and other people are not. And we can see that in all of the structures you written down. For example, states, countries. If you have this passport, you can come in. If you don't have, you cannot. So this is also some domination system. So we're putting in place some rules that some people deserve something and other people don't deserve. And then also Marshall talks about how the 4Ds and also you want to say something about that or about something else?
This connects a little bit with the mindset and the language that Marshall used to connect with, the language and the mindset that is needed to maintain domination systems. So it's basically what Sandra was sharing right now. And he gave it some breakdowns. He speaks of the 4Ds, for example, that are
denial.
This is denial of responsibility, the language of deservedness, the language of demand and of diagnosis. But he also speaks about one thing that I really love, which is suppression of self, that is necessary in order to reproduce domination systems. And in what I understand he meant from suppression of self is really be able to only speak from those external references of right, wrong, good, and bad, but not really speak from your own humanity, which NVC brings us language to speak about our own humanity, language of feelings and language of needs, which is, I'd say, tremendously important, but also really important to understand that that's not the end, it's the means by which we can express our humanity, the self, and talk from a level of our common denominator, of this common humanity that we share, and contribute to connection and to empathy and to understanding. So this is one thing, and I just want to add about how Marshall thought of domination systems, is that one thing that personally it might be an expansion of what he brings, is that beyond the institutions and the government structures, there's that dimension of narrative, of the story, of the paradigm, of my worldview, of what is it that I'm sustaining. And usually from my perspective, what I understand is there's always a narrative behind or that generates an institution, or that generates a cultural practice. There's a story about who we are, where we are, what are we doing here, who are the others, and there's usually an other, and also an idea about human beings, about the nature of human beings. Marshall used to talk a lot about how domination systems is very rooted in a story about human beings that considers human beings as being wicked and needing control. And it does connect very strongly within the field of social sciences and the various schools of social science, of theories about human beings and the nature of human being. And we see that there are some schools that hold that perspective and that have a lot of influence on how we structure our systems, systems of control, systems of police, systems of repression, of punishment, which generates a lot of our institutional culture.
So
do you want to
is
maybe
it making sense? Maybe if you could make a movement in the screen, if it's yeah, okay. Thank you. And there's a question from Istvan here.
I really like this question.
Yeah, the question is, I put my question again because I'm too curious for your response. But how can I stay in peace when I live within a relationship, this power over? Because my reaction could be not go for request, but for demand to be heard, considered, or living equity. I'm feeling uncomfortable to play in this relation because by doing rebellion or submission, I play the game. I would like to stay in peace, whatever the other does with this power over. What is your feedback to that? Yeah, I love this question too. For me, this is all NVC is about how can we transform relations, power over or power under, in power with. So I start to connect to my own needs and act from them instead of acting from reacting, for rebelling or submitting. So this is the difference for me between power over and power under. How can I more and more connect to myself and act from meeting my needs, from what is making my life more wonderful, as Marshall used to say, instead of only reacting, submitting, or rebelling? Because I'm not connected to myself when I'm doing that. I'm not connected to my own needs. And does it make sense, Istvan?
There's something I want to bring, more or less. I want to bring in another perspective also that is part. I know that there are different levels of knowledge and practice of NVC in the room. Some people have many years experience, some are more beginners, and I want to say that in various levels, it's not everyone had this experience, but people are more aware of the more fundamental distinctions in nonviolent communication. So, and they're often related to the 4 steps. So the distinctions between strategies and needs, and distinction between feelings and non-feelings, and observations and judgments, and requests and demands. But I want to say that there are, just for people who are not aware of this, the model of NVC has actually about 25 distinctions, or they're not just those 4 distinctions, and at least 25. And there's actually a book published, we have it somewhere here, that kind of broke down even more those distinctions into, I guess, 40. I think there reached like 48 distinctions. It's a wonderful perspective of looking at NVC. So there's one distinction, is one that comes to my mind, which is the distinction between persisting versus demanding, which comes up where it's a different energy, where it's not about me imposing, but it's about me really holding that ground of knowing what are the needs that I want met, and really curious about how that can be possible in meeting the other's needs as well. Like how can, and like have that really not easily letting go of an attempt of dialogue and co-creation. And I did find it often very challenging when the other party is often too afraid of engaging in dialogue because there's some fear of losing something so precious to them. So or them not being considered or seen, so they kind of grab onto that, like, no, I don't want to engage in conversation. And I want to really be empathetic and compassionate with that fear, and kind of be able to, so they want safety and they want security to be able to open up to talk or something in that sense, and to be able to do those movements within the attempt when it's getting hard, when it's not that easy, when the conditions for dialogue are not already there, are not already set. And often I find also when power is very asymmetrical, that becomes really difficult, because sometimes that the powerful party in the situation doesn't even acknowledge that why would they engage in dialogue? So this is where the whole field of protective use of force comes in, that Marshall kind of brought in the middle of, it's not a demand, it's not exactly a request, it's kind of this effort to bring it back to the dialogue conditions, to try to intervene or disrupt in a way that protects. If there's immediate danger, that's really important, but really with that awareness of, no, I don't want to eliminate the other, I don't want to, I want to bring back to the dialogue condition, which is a whole other field. There's so many strategies within that, and I'm not sure we can cover a lot of it here, but I do think that it's definitely connected to transforming domination systems, where oftentimes it might be the case that there is nobody to talk to, and that condition of dialogue needs to be created. And this is also, for me, where it connects to social movements and protest. And of course, there's a complexity in that. It's not that simple, but it's kind of a request to be heard. The even strikes, right? The people who go on strike, and they're not trying to destroy the industry they're taking strike in, but they're wanting their voice to be heard. And of course, we can get into the complexity of that, of the difference, the capitalist context of that. There's a lot to deconstruct, but I mean, there are different ways to think about it. I don't know, I'm seeing you saying yes, but I'm not sure if this is enough for you for now.
And also Deborah answered Esteban, saying that having personal support system for self-care while dealing with domination systems is essential, and also foundational while navigating challenges of what we are naming.
Thank you, Dvola. Yes, that's resonates very strongly with me.
And also another aspect, that my needs, I don't like the difference between needs and strategy, that I can meet the same need with a diversity of strategies. So if I'm not being able to meet my needs with this person, or in this relationship, or in the way I want to with this person, I can be creative and try other strategies to meet my need, maybe with another person, or with a different strategy, with something, new ideas. So I'm not stuck. This supports me a lot, thinking that the needs are not the strategies, like I don't have to meet my needs with one person, the same person, the way I want, but I can do it in many different ways. I can do that. So I would like to go to an exercise so we can do something more practical and invite you to do something. Would you like to do that? I'm thinking that we are talking a lot, and it's very...
Make a movement in the screen so we can see a little bit. If you'd like to go to an exercise, a practice. Yay, there's lots of movement.
Yeah, okay.
Wonderful, okay. And I just want to say, for questions that are coming up here, I'm just really torn, because I want so much to engage with each thing that you're putting here. And
also Priyanka is bringing something that also you can bring to this exercise we are doing now, and then we can talk more about that. She's saying that as a woman in India, while is mostly male dominated, I find a lot of men mansplaining and talking over me. It makes me angry, and I end up speaking over them, which I don't want to do. And they label me as a dominating woman. The worst you can be as a woman in India, where submission in women is an ideal. How to deal, please? Yeah, okay. So we can do an exercise, and maybe you can bring that. Let's do that. So what we want to, do you think we have time to do everything?
I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe we do individually and share on the chat.
It could be a way to save time.
Yeah.
But so, I would like to do at least one breakout
in breakout rooms.
Yeah.
So I will, you want to start explaining, I will get it to put in the chat.
Sure. So what we'd like to invite you to do in this exercise is to dive a little bit into personal experience. And it would be great to work maybe with a sheet of paper, you think? Yeah,
yeah, you write down somewhere.
Yeah, it would be, if you can get yourself either a sheet of paper and a pen, or open a note-taking app in your computer or something that you can write on, that would work for this exercise. And the idea in this first step is to identify how language of domination is present in our own lives, and how we are subjected to it by perpetuating systems of domination. So the idea is to first think of a situation where someone said something to you that perpetuates a domination system. So try to connect to your own story. Sandra just put the steps on, on the chat.
I want to give an example.
Okay.
Me and Yuri, we met practicing Aikido, and more than 20 years ago. And we moved to another city and we were moving, and we were going to start a new dojo, Aikido school in the city. And our sensei, our teacher, our Aikido teacher, was told us, we were there talking to him, and he said to me, you are more graduate than him. So I was third degree already.
Third,
no,
yeah.
Second, and
second dan black belt.
In my rank in Aikido was higher than his. And he said, since you are a woman, you have to follow the woman have to follow the husband. So he must be the most the first person in your publicly. He's the one who comes first. So this is more or less what he said. So this is the phrase that I want to deal with. So it's something someone told me that is reproducing domination systems. In this case, is reproducing patriarchy, misogyny, and all of that. Yeah. So thinking about that, so I will write down the phrase, and the husband has to be the first one, the main person in a couple. The wife has to stay in the background and follow the husband, even though you are more graduated. It was something like that.
A higher rank.
Higher rank.
Yeah.
So if you have a list of feelings and needs to support you, I don't know if the Alba, if you could send them the lists, it would be very supportive. If you don't have, or if you don't need, so I invite you to write down your feelings in this situation. So my feelings in this situation, even now, like thinking about that, I feel shock, surprise, fear, anger. I feel something in my stomach. I feel some shame and some repression, something kind of weird. Then I will write down my needs. So my needs are for respect, consideration, equality, justice in this situation. And then if you want to, I invite you to do an empathic guess and try to guess what it might be the needs behind what he said, what the person said. So I guess that when he said that to me, he was trying to support us, to help, to contribute, to care that we were accepted in the new city. I think those might be the needs behind what he said. I don't know. I never checked with him. He's not here for me to check. but I believe that this might be his needs. His needs were to support and to contribute to our well-being and to our acceptance in this new town. So I will invite you to do that.
And Alba just posted the feelings inventory vocabulary lists in English and in Spanish. Alba, if you can also post the lists of needs, that will be really supportive. Thank you. Yeah, Ella, she's working on it.
Thank you.
So you have also the needs lists in Spanish and in English on our chat.
Não está falando. Okay. If you finished, please click the sign of yes, or I don't know if you did. Where is the sign of yes? Or this?
No, not those. Not those. Those disappear in 5 seconds. When you open participants, there are a series of signs you can put up at the bottom,
yes sign.
And there's a yes sign that you can use. So yeah, Katie found the yes sign. Hi, Katie. Ah, fofinho.
Yeah.
I often...
Stella wants to say something.
Yeah, I just couldn't get your sound for 3 minutes. Now it's come back.
Okay. We were talking to each other, so that's why we
were
muted.
Okay.
Because we are torn right now because we have 30 minutes and we wanted to put you in breakout rooms and come back and do something else. So we are trying to figure out what to do.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry that we...
So I don't see a lot of the yes signs up, but I'm just gonna say one more thing now before we move to a next step in this exercise, but please continue doing your exercise and while I'm speaking. I wanted to mention that I personally notice when I do this exercise and usually when Sandra and I do this.
So we have 1 hour? We have 1 hour or we have 30 minutes?
Oh, we programmed this to 2-hour session. We could go over time, but I'm concerned a little because of whether we will have
10
interpretation.
Minutes. We can go 10 minutes over.
10 minutes.
Or we can interpret ourselves.
Which will be...
the session will end in 27 minutes. So maybe
in the schedule, sorry, it's mentioned 1 hour, 2.5 hours. In the schedule, it's mentioned. So India
it's
time
2.5 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, but our tech support. Oh no, this is the window for those sessions, but it's not necessarily the length of the session.
So maybe we can continue more and we translate. I don't know.
I don't know if that's possible. As Alba will need to let us know if we can go over time or no. Yes. Okay, thank you. That was V.
Okay.
Thank you, V. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Wonderful.
So then,
So the one thing that I wanted to comment is that I noticed when I do this exercise with Sandra, I noticed one particular difference come up. I noticed that it takes me longer to find an experience where I'm subjected to domination systems. And I want to say that in my mind, in my understanding, this is associated with privilege, with my experience in the systems that I inhabit, and Sandra, and how it's different from Sandra's experience in the same systems that we inhabit, that we live in. So it takes me longer to try to find a situation where that happened to me than for Sandra usually.
And it's not that it doesn't happen, because if, like, for example, wanting to enter in a building and the person says, no, you cannot enter, this is already something experiencing a domination system, right? So everyone experiences it, but there are maybe levels or amount of times that we experience it in our
and so I just wanted to bring that dimension of how privilege is connected to this. So it could be that some of you are experiencing something similar, maybe not. Maybe some of you that have characteristics that are more similar to mine or not. But I'm just wanting to bring an awareness to that. So
we can go to breakout rooms then, if we have time. So we can go to groups of 3 and 4, and I would like to invite you to share what you've written, if you want. If you don't want to share, don't do anything you don't want to do, please, and share what you want. And how was it to do the exercise, and how did you feel doing it? So
what insights came up for you? What did you notice about yourself?
Yeah, just share what you wrote. So can we go to the breakout rooms, Alba?
Alba, yes. So Alba, we would like to go to breakout rooms now for people to practice. We have 3 and 4 people, so we will have overall about how much? Maybe 3 minutes each?
Yeah, so
15 minutes overall, maybe.
15 minutes overall. So if you are in a group of 4, or if you are in a group of 3, please be mindful of time. You will have 3 to 5 minutes each person to share. Okay, so we are caring for the time so we can do another exercise. Maybe, yeah.
You
okay.
want a little less time?
17 minutes. No, it's okay.
It's
15
okay.
minutes.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So Alba, breakout rooms, and we will have 15 minutes for all groups, please.
So in the groups.
Thank you.
Yeah, I invite you to just start sharing, not talking a lot. Where are you from? How old are you? All those things. I really like doing that, but there will be no time to share the exercise if you start chatting about other things. Okay, so I invite you to dive into that.
Okay.
So
have a good breakout session.
The question is share what you wrote. Share how was it for you to do the exercise. Okay.
Yeah.
Some other questions? Any questions about that? So can you send them to the groups?
Alba?
Yes. Sure. So did you hear that? Put the language you would like to go into the group, if English or Spanish, please, so they can, or if you don't want to go into a breakout room, you write no. And also, if you get into a room and it's only you, wait a little bit because other people might be joining.
And so for those of you who haven't put the language next to your name, you just need to rename and add the language of your preference. And to do that, you hover your the cursor over your image in gallery mode. There are 3 little dots. You click on that. There's a menu that opens, and there's rename possibility there. And so you can rename and put down what's the 2 letters of the language you prefer, English or Spanish, or you can also write no breakout, and then you won't be sent to breakout room.
Não, eu escrevi errado. O que eu faço? Dá para apagar?
No.
So I posted something I wasn't supposed to post.
Yeah, yes, Alba, please go ahead. Empezamos.
Yeah, sí.
Okay. Deixa, eles vão conversar agora. Pode gerar uma confusão. Eu entendi, mas dava uma instrução.
Hi, it's Haasz.
It's Haasz.
Good to see you. Hi, Danielle. Are you arriving now?
We can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. Okay, can you hear me now?
Hi.
No, I
Yeah.
keep on coming in and out because I'm busy with the kids. So I join and then I leave and I join and I'm trying to like catch whatever I can in between.
Okay.
You're,
So the people are in small groups sharing their. We invited them to do an exercise individually, and now they're sharing how was the exercise.
Okay, all right.
Maybe I can put the exercise here in the chat again. I don't know if you had the chance to do it.
You can put it in the chat. I won't be able to go into a small group because I've got kids, you know, I can't like really be totally with it. So I just feel a bit uncomfortable.
Okay.
no problem.
Yeah, no problem.
But I would like to read the chat. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
Tava aí mesmo, não tava?
Não, aqui, ó.
Não tem mais.
Ah, isso aqui é em espanhol.
Okay, great.
How many
Thanks.
minutes? Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Alba, how many minutes do we still have for the breakouts? Okay, 3 more minutes. Okay, thank you. Could you let them know, please, like send a message 3 more minutes and then maybe
4 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Alba. Gracias.
I was my Zoom disconnected and I got thrown out of my room.
Oh.
You were right there?
I think I was in 10.
In group 10, maybe Alba can send you back there then to room 10.
I think it was 10.
There's still a couple of good minutes.
Sometimes it happens.
A good couple of minutes, not a couple of good minutes.
A couple. They are married. The
Yeah,
good minutes.
or the minutes can be good or bad.
Good minutes.
That's not what I meant. Istvan, is your group done?
I just came back because I really wanted to ask a question. It's like, and I say, oh, I have 1.5 minutes. Hurry up, because I'm work on this for 4 weeks, and maybe if I have the chance to talk at the other moment with one of you or both, that would be great, because I'm really stuck with that, and it's a power over. Because I don't want to play it shortly. I don't want to play in this game of somebody says it's like this. That's it. You should. It's like this. It works like this. And I don't want to play with her in this game of power over. And but because as I want to be free. That's freedom of choice and be heard. But if and there is no possibility of dialogue, really. I have the impression I tried, but there is no feedback to that. And I say, okay, how can I take care of myself? But if I go out of the relationship, then there will never be dialogue. I mean, I should not fly away. And how can I deal with that? I'm because I want to have peace within myself, even if she is not capable to be in a dialogue. If it's like, if my mother, will never change her. No, it's not with my mother. I cannot never change her because she's 80 years old, for example, and I have to have peace with that, with the power of the other. And then maybe I liked what you said about persisting. No, that's really great. The difference persisting and demand. But I'm still lost for this situation. Don't know if you can or you want to react to that.
Yeah, I'm hearing there's some, and I'm wanting to just really to check if I'm getting it right. That there's a like really not knowing what to do in the situation, but also some sadness that it can't be with more connection or more possibility or more option or choice. Yeah, right now, yeah. At least if I understand, of course I'm not supposing to know the situation, but and I'm hearing that the persisting part made sense to you, that maybe that helps you in the sense of like knowing that you have the choice to, it's not either or, but you can hold your ground and stay with. But I'm also just kind of caught with this, maybe the sadness or the mourning, and I'm wondering if it would support you more in this situation. Something that actually appeared in the chat of having more external support, like just have more space for your own sadness and mourning to really give it space. If that's something that you've considered, or you've
Yes, I consider this because there was that's quite funny, because this morning there was a morning and celebration, and I worked on this specific thing to mourn that that I don't find the exact words very shortly, minimum less than 40 words that I can be heard, or that I mourn that for the moment this is not possible, and the dialogue is not possible, and that I cannot be seen, and maybe if I totally mourn at totally the end, I will be at ease and maybe something will move. But for the moment, I'm still like, because everybody, a lot of people are in situations where in companies, in countries, wherever, that they stuck in the situation, they cannot get out. I mean, yeah, of course you can get out of a company and you can say, okay, don't work in the company. But if you don't work, you give not a pedagogical giraffe to change the situation. It's flying away. I mean, or in a country or whatever. And I mean, how can I stay within to, that's my dream, no? Also to help changing the movement. But if I go out of this relationship, or I don't say anything, or I don't persist anymore, then I don't know. I don't know how you do this yourself, but
I hear you are yearning for more inner peace within a difficult situation where you don't feel you have much choice, and you would like to feel at least more comfortable with yourself. Is that it?
That's it. And with that situation, like accept reality and be in peace. That for the moment, I'm thinking of Nelson Mandela, something like, no, he's in prison. I mean, he can't change that he's in prison, and how to be 30 years later he got out. But I mean, like for me, it's like several years in the same situation, and I still hope but it's laying in my peacefulness that change is coming. I think so. I don't know. And I want to taste this better, to be forceful in a positive way to change the movement.
Yeah, there's the wanting peace, and there's this still part of you that's really not happy with the situation that it is
Exactly.
right now. And I'm hearing maybe that part of you is really needing more empathy and space and just acknowledgement that that's so painful that it's not possible right now to be in a different way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you. I don't want to take more time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ismail.
People
I
out
want to
there.
acknowledge, yeah, thank you for voicing what's alive for you. And I want to welcome everyone back from the breakout rooms. And we have very short time still. So I'm wondering if we
go to the next, inviting the next exercise, and then we talk about everything.
Yeah.
What about that?
Okay,
or you want to hear something here?
We can. I would love for people to do the next step, and I'm kind of curious if people would like to put maybe in the chat if there's anything you would like to share about how it was for you. I would love to read it. I'm not thinking we'll be able to read all of your experiences, just
with everyone, but we can read.
Yeah.
Aside.
So if there's anything you want to share about how it was, and we will do a next step in the exercise, but yeah, we might have a little time to hear a couple of voices at the end before we finish up.
It was muy liberador, freeing.
Very freeing, yeah.
Very freeing. I envision become an attractor by holding sacred your power or container for what we are striving for. I think she's talking
Maybe
about
that's
something else. Yeah. I wonder if many times when people say things to us that represent a domination system, their need is belonging. So, thank you. Gracias, mis compañeras. Thank you for the group. Not have immediate compassion for the person. It's okay to not have immediate compassion for the person who's holding power over us. Yes, for me, this is something very important. That's why I asked you to, if you want to, you try to think about what might be the needs of the person who said that. And for me, sometimes it's not very easy to do that when I still need more empathy to myself. I still need to care for myself first before I'm able to open some space within myself to want to look at the other person as a person and not that monster that I'm projecting on, like this horrible person who says horrible things. And when I have enough empathy, usually I'm able to try to look at the humanity of the person who said that thing that I didn't enjoy hearing, but behind that, the person was also trying to meet some needs. The way the person said it might not have met their needs or might have been disastrous, but deep down, they were also trying to meet some beautiful values and universal human needs.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Katie, also for voicing this, because sometimes even NVC can become in my mind or in our collective minds domination system if we're allowing it to just reproduce deeper codes that are in ourselves of those domination systems. So if I'm thinking that now because I
have to
do NVC or live NVC, I want to be a person that lives NVC, and so I have to be compassionate and empathetic, even in situation where that's coming at a grave cost to my well-being and health, and I just don't have the capacity for it. And even if it's not a thought, but I'm just like, I'm shoulding myself, like I should do that. Of course it's a thought as well, but it's it's a different way that it appears. Just to be mindful how I'm piling on a situation that is already very difficult. It's already difficult enough to be in a situation where my needs are not met. I'm always piling on top of that I have to now be empathetic. It could be really, really painful.
Oh. I think I muted her unwillingly. Sorry, V. Yeah.
But,
if you can repeat the last part.
Just so I was just saying that it can be really painful if I am reproducing, even living NVC as a domination system in my own thinking. If I'm already living a very difficult situation, and in my mind I'm telling myself, because I live, do, study, practice NVC, now I have to be empathetic, even though I'm really in pain in a situation. I have to, or I should be empathetic all the time, and it's beyond my capacity at that moment. I need empathy for myself. I need to reconnect. I need to heal my wound in order, or at least to a certain level where I can be present with the other person.
So Tanya asked here, can you say something about detecting in myself where I am unconsciously being dominant? So that's what we want to invite you to do next. So in the next exercise is to think of a situation. Let me see if I'm putting it right. No, it's not right. I'm copying the wrong thing. Like, think of a situation where you reproduced a system of domination when you said something to someone, something that you said and maybe you regret or brings some sadness or shame, or that you see that perpetuates domination systems. So I will also give an example. I used to work in a company, and in this company I would almost never have lunch with women there. I would have lunch with the men, because I was thinking, the thoughts that came up to me was, oh, those women only talk about soap operas. They are futile. They only gossip. So my mindset was like that. Oh, I don't want to have lunch with them because I have nothing to talk. So doing that, so those are the thoughts that come up to me, and I can realize, so this is reproducing domination systems. I'm also saying, oh, women are futile or something like that. So when I think about that, then I will write down my feelings. When I think about that, I feel ashamed, and I also feel sad, uncomfortable. I feel my heart is pounding a little bit right now, telling you that, like being vulnerable and saying that. And because what are my needs? And then I will write down my needs that are not met in the situations. My needs are for respect and connection to them. I want to, in deep down, I want to connect. I would have liked to connect with them. And then what are the needs? I will try to write down the fourth question. What needs were I trying to meet when I said what I said, when I thought what I thought, when I was thinking, oh, I don't want to have lunch with them because they only talk about soap operas and I have nothing to talk about with them, about these female magazines and stuff. So the needs I was trying to meet was to have meaning, to have meaningful conversations during lunch. So the needs were meaning, were connection, were meaningful connection, yeah. And I didn't think I would have meaningful connection with them, so that's why I would have lunch with the man. So I'm also trying to see the needs behind that. And the fifth step is to try to rewrite the phrase. It might be something you said or might be something you're thinking. So trying to rewrite that or to remake my thinking, I could write like this, and adding my feelings and needs, expressing my feelings and needs. I could say, I'm sad because I really long for meaningful conversations and connection with my female coworkers. That's actually if I'm translating the thought of, oh, women only talk about soap opera, they are futile, they only gossip. If I translate this phrase into feelings and needs, it could sound something like that. I'm sad because I long for meaningful conversations and connection with my female coworkers. Is it, so would you like me to put the example on the chat as well, or is it, no? So I will also put the, in Spanish, I think I didn't put there, and I want to invite you to do that yourself, to think of a situation, something you said to someone or something you thought that you can realize that you're reproducing some domination system. It can be an interaction with your family, kids, parents, husband, friends, co-workers, with yourself, anything. And for me, one of the most important things here is to be kind to myself when I realize I'm using this kind of language, this kind of language that is reproducing domination system, to find ways to heal and care for myself. Deborah, you have a question you're writing down, or you want to say something? She's writing down. If the thoughts are in response to them. Yeah, I think it can count. If I'm reproducing domination systems while I'm trying to rebel or protect myself against a domination system, but then I'm reproducing it again, it's still reproducing domination systems. So it's a vicious circle. I'm reproducing the violence vicious circle. And this is what I believe Paulo Freire was talking about. We are stuck into this domination system, and I just know how to say something that is also dominating, power over or power under. So we will wait a little bit while you write down.
So Istvan is also asking, if I do not agree and say directly my opinion loudly, is this a sort of power over? Well, I would really say that it depends. Because, for example, for a male to shout loudly while talking to a woman could reproduce archetypical structures of domination. It could and may not. Like it's not necessary, but there's a risk there of like physical force, and this is patriarchy again. Like it could also, depending on the context, not be. I could be shouting my feelings and needs, and so it's not a lot of when we think of connection and expressing ourselves, not suppressing ourselves, it doesn't really talk about tone of voice, but I do think there's a sensitivity that needs to also be in the field of who are the interlocutors and what is the context and how can a strong shout voice, male voice, could impact an environment. And so it depends.
And it always depends on the context in the relationship, because how we are connecting and what does it mean in this relationship. It's not a... Does it make sense? Yeah.
Oh, you say another context where it is not so, where you yell? Well, yeah, I've had conversations with other males where the really like the tone of voice kind of rose. By a chance, we were both NVC practitioners, so there was something about what was being expressed very strongly was still like not judgments, was still feelings and needs. It was very intense interaction. And the people that were watching were other men. It was a circle of men, actually. So the other men were like, they were taken aback, not because of the volume, but because they've never presenced volume not being a factor of feeling that it's not creating connection, of like that it was actually still moving in the direction of wanting to connect. So that's one example that I can share of one experience I've had. I hope it's useful. Not so much.
We can all yell caring for others because the situation is dangerous.
Absolutely.
Jimmy also gave this example. Yeah. There's an example that is funny. I speak, for example, many times. I'm me speaking to my sister, and people come and look and what's going on? Are you fighting? No, we are just talking. And maybe the cultural background also influences how culture is different. And like in a culture, speaking loudly is the normality is common. And you go to another culture and then you are labeled aggressive. And then, so it all depends on the connection, right?
How it's being decoded.
Decoded.
Mm-hmm.
The question is not specific. We can talk later if you want, Esteban. If people want to connect with us in other moments as well, we can do that. So can we go to small groups again? Do we have time?
I don't think so.
We don't have time.
I don't think we can have maybe sharing in the chat, and we can choose a few shares and maybe a couple of voices in the large group. So we would invite you to raise your hand if you would like to share about this exercise, this last one, what it was like for you to do the exercise, or an insight that you had, or what you noticed about yourself doing the exercise.
Mm-hmm. And there's a hand up.
We have two hands, Tanya and Lisa.
Lisa, can you unmute yourself? And then
Lisa went first.
Lisa,
okay.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, hi. A really neat situation came to me from my school in Palestine a few years ago. I was teaching at a very, very strict school, Palestinian school. And over the years, some trust was developed, and I was given a center to create a creativity center where the kids had a lot of freedom. And one girl came in and she was so excited about this creativity and play and friendship. She went wild and she would destroy the place every day. And I didn't know how to handle it. Like, I wanted to give so much freedom to the kids to have fun, to play. And finally, I just sat her down and said, "You're a bad girl." I wasn't given any time in between the periods to really focus and be present for the kids. And I realize now in doing this exercise, I was so nervous that having a creative, free-flowing structure in a very strict and punitive place, I was really needing stability and structure and order to be able to maintain a very free-flowing place. And she saw this very free-flowing place and was like, hey, I can go wild and destroy everything. No trouble here. And I wish I could have said to her, I see you feel excited about the creativity and friendships, and you'd really love to belong and play. Would you be willing to follow a few rules so we can make sure this center is maintained in a sustainable way? But I didn't understand even at the time that I needed rules, because I just wanted them to be so free. I couldn't even imagine rules. So now I can understand to build such a center in a very punitive system requires a lot of structure, a lot of cooperation, a lot of communication. Yeah.
So I hear you wanted more balance between the freedom and the structure and the agreements.
Yeah,
rules.
it seems to be a lifelong struggle, and it came out with this girl.
Yeah. And I'm really hearing how you wanted it to be, to meet her needs too, and you wanted it to still meet the needs for you as well and for other kids. Like there's so much protection of needs, and some of that automatism of the environment or I don't know, the institution or how it works kind of like just took over. It slipped out. And
yeah, I mean, we were just on a light note, we were making slime one day, and I just so carefully set out all the rules so that it wouldn't be chaos. And she couldn't hold back her ecstasy, and she ended up spreading slime all over the school. It was a disaster. We're trying.
I'm holding with a lot of care how you're still also seeing what's behind the behavior of like spreading slime. There's ecstasy that you can see that you can.
Yeah, and a desire to maybe like just erase all the punitive systems that she'd been suffering with for so long, like just revolution, revolution in my hands. I want to put it all over the school walls. Thank you for this opportunity to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And Tanya, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel super inspired after this session, because it's really something that I want to bring into my teaching of NVC. And one thing that was really interesting for me to learn was trying to empathize with someone who is saying something to me that represents a domination system. And I mean, it's just a guess. I never asked, but I really got in touch with that. I really, really believe that this could happen in many times when somebody does that. They're kind of trying to maintain their integrity. Because in my case, it was my father telling me that I should work hard. And I long for acceptance that I don't work hard in his terms. And yeah, that for him, like if he accepts me as I am, not working hard, what does it mean for his life, where he has been working his ass off for decades? So I'm just like really inspired by this thought that, yeah, that's also how it gets perpetuated in us. Like, yeah. I don't know if it was clear.
Yeah, I'm hearing there was some opening that you've experienced in looking into what's behind your father's expression that I understand is painful for you, but also just connecting to maybe there's care behind what he's like, that there's care, he's trying to care when he's saying what he's saying. It's still painful, but there's something about the opening of like looking into his perspective or what he's experiencing. Am I getting it?
I'm not really sure if it's care. I was really more connecting to like that he tries to take care of his own integrity. Like
Right.
that we perpetuate domination system, we also kind of make sure that the way we live our life is aligned with what we tell others.
So the strategies that he knows are so, it brings him maybe to desperation when it's not what he knows, what he feels safe, even for you.
Yeah, that then he would have to question himself.
Oh.
So like if he allows me to not work hard, what does it mean for himself?
Yeah, what does it mean that he worked so hard his whole life, and then what did he do maybe with his life? That's and his, so maybe this question, his sense of stability, he's trying to care for his needs of stability, safety, integrity, self-integrity.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to share one really quick thing, that I am just left with a lot of curiosity and really wondering how I can find these things that are happening inside of me and where I reproduce domination systems without knowing, because I'm sure that's happening. And like when I try to find an example, that's something I'm already aware of. So that's something I'm taking with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that.
Yeah, and I want to say that I'm in my, just to share a little bit of, I hold that question so dearly that you just shared, in the sense of like, what is it that I'm not seeing? And I, rather than, and sometimes it brings anxiety for me because I really would like to have an immediate answer. And I just know that there are different categories of questions, and this is one of those questions that don't have an immediate answer, but it's more of a question that serves as a companion for a journey. It opens doors for a new pathway for life, for investigation. And as long as I keep that question alive for me, and this is my perspective, how I hold it, I'm hoping it's useful for you, that it's, if I keep a question alive in me, I'm more bound to really allow the field to inform me. So I can start to notice more. And
yeah, I hear it as like a lens that I'm wearing, walking through my life.
Yeah.
For me, there's also something about that, how much for me, community is important to support me to see things I don't see, and how other people can support me in seeing. So having a community where I can find this quality of presence and truth, and how do I say it, vulnerability, honesty, and trust, so we can be honest, and people tell me things that I'm not seeing, and I'm more and more being able to receive it, not as an attack, but something that I can, oh, let me see that, and I didn't notice that, let me check, how is it for me? Oh, I didn't see, I haven't noticed how it impacted you. And instead of being so, I have to be perfect. No, I'm not perfect. And I want to interact with other people and have meaningful and truth relationship where people can tell me when I'm doing something that is not meeting their needs, and I also can tell them. And like this, we can create an environment where all of us can feel better. So I believe that also this interconnectedness that we have, and we can learn with each other, it's very important. For me, it's something very dear to have a community, to create community where we can be.
And there are so many wonderful sessions that are happening in this festival. I just wanted to name one that is connected to what Sandra just mentioned, and how what we're looking here as a broader framework can also hold how, for instance, racism is dealt with. And
there was a question on racism.
There was a question that I could not find again, so I'm kind of sad.
I will find it.
Oh, you put it here? And so there's a session that Irmtraud is going to offer on how to move from white fragility to response. I don't remember the exact title, but to, I guess, responsible understanding. And it's so it connects to a little bit of what Sandra just said. How can I receive a communication of someone who is where I'm reproducing domination system in a way, and I'm not noticing, and I receive feedback that's reproducing, for instance, racism. So how can I not like really hold myself with compassion and the person and the situation and the systemic dimension of it, and not go into shutting down and defending and reacting, but just allowing for what has been said to be heard. I can hear it. I can maybe see more than I could see before. It's, oh, I bumped into something I couldn't see, and now I can see it. So how can I learn? And it'll be wonderful. I'm sure to go to that session. I want to be there. I'm not sure I can wake up at 4 a.m. For us, it'll be at 4 a.m. So.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Yet.
Anyway, we're really
here.
Oh,
but now we can stay in peace within a relationship with power over, because
no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think it's that. We couldn't catch it, but I'm just saying it's really important to look at questions around racism. Right now, they're so alive in so many places. There was a comment here also I wanted to mention about police, and there's an example, a beautiful example. I don't remember the name that was, but a beautiful example of a police officer that is or was here in the group. If you are, please just say hello here in the chat so I can remember your name, because I loved your message, and that has been integrating NVC into her police work. And
his, I don't know if
here,
it's her or his.
I thought it was her. Okay.
Okay.
There was one new message. Go down. Yeah, Lori. Giel. Yeah. I saw. I don't know if you're. He, she, they. So I just want to say that, yeah, there's so huge complexity in these systems also. So also like this care of not, again, in trying to respond, falling into that trap of just flattening everything as one thing, just looking at what are the movements that are possible within these systems, and what's the diversity. Racism is being very strongly present right now because of what's happening right now in the United States, and has been happening for a long time. But
racism is present.
No, I'm saying in the public sphere and media racism, right now is so present because of these recent events. It brought attention to them. And I want to say we were looking at a broader structure and perspective here that could be useful to approach racism also with this awareness. And I want to say that here in Brazil, in certain aspects, it's much, much graver than it is in the States in terms of numbers, sheer numbers. Just to give you an idea, in terms of police, and this is another aspect of police and police culture, police killing Black and brown people. Here in Brazil, it's 5 times the number that it is in the US. So it's just really present, really impacting everyday life, always, not just now that it's in the media, but now it's an opportunity to raise awareness collectively. Anyway, we don't really have any more time.
Yeah, so I'd like to
bring it to a close.
Yeah, bring it to a close and say thank you very much for being here and to participate and do the exercise and share. And I'd like to invite you to write down on the chat, how are you leaving? Like a checkout, how are you leaving the session? And maybe something that was meaningful for you, if you want to write down, this will be recorded, so we will have.
We can access it.
We can access it
even after we're done. Yeah.
And yeah, enriched, inspired, grateful for these conversations, esperanzada, muy contenta, inspired, more clarity. Yeah.
I'm living full of gratitude and just sensing I could stay here with you longer and give more space. I'm longing to hear more of your voices, and the time was really short for that.
Yeah, for me it's very juicy to have so many people from so many places in the world, places where I've never met people from before, and I'm mourning that I didn't get the chance to hear all the voices and more voices. And yeah, so maybe in the next sessions we can meet each other again, the sessions we will participate. And also Yuri will offer another session with Azam from Palestine, talking about Israel-Palestinian question, their experience of being Palestinian and Israeli and NVC in this dynamic of power, differences of power in a situation. If you're in, when is it? Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. It's in the schedule. Thank you so much, everyone. I would like to open the mics and give an opportunity for a goodbye, a general goodbye for everyone. So
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Domo arigato. Gozaimashita.
Shukran, yatik alafia. Toda.
Obrigada.
Toda rabá.
Obrigada.
More.
Dankjewel.
Hasta la próxima.
Obrigado, até a próxima.
Yes.
Até a próxima.
Obrigado, gracias, thank you for translation, for interpretation, and thank you for the tech team. Thank you, everyone.
Istvan, are you from Hungary?
That's my first. Wait.
I can hear you. We can hear you.
We can hear you.
No.
We were hearing you. Yeah.
Yes, that's my first name, but I'm Belgium and I'm living in France. It's
It's just because it was my grandfather's name, Istvan.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I knew we had some connection before.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
And
Thanks for the inspiration. I'm going to Belfort to demonstrate.
You stay here for some other minutes or not?
Istvan?
Yes.
I think
last time we met also.
Okay. We have to close the room because I guess there will be another session soon.
Perfect. Can you only give your details to stay in contact?
Yes.
Of course.
Or website or whatever.
Yes.
Then I write this down, or email or whatever, because I really would love to stay in contact.
Yeah.
Our email. Here is the email now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I hope it's also in English because I don't speak Portuguese or.
No, the site is in Portuguese, but the email you can connect directly.
Okay. And you have sometimes workshops in English you do, except here, online or whatever?
Yes, we do. We don't have anything planned right now.
I write you and then I ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Domo arigato. Dankjewel. Merci beaucoup.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much.